So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome Supervisor Wima.
Good morning, everybody. I also want to thank the three sponsors of these forums. These forums are always great. They're always packed. And also express my excitement at the release, the wider release of the report, Every Child Ready. I think you're going to find a lot of great information in there. I just want to talk to you about a few things today. As Andrea said, I think this report needs to be a call to action for young children in Alameda County and in the state of California. I think I want to go beyond just closing the gap, but I think that we have to recommit ourselves to make sure every child born in Alameda County in the state of California has all the tools they need to learn and to succeed in society. And I want to make a call today for a recommitment to universal preschool for all 3 to 4-year-olds in California. So I want to give a little bit of historical perspective and then talk a little bit about what I think we all might do together. But first, I know a lot of people in this room, and there are also some, the next generation of young leaders, which is always inspiring. So I wanted to ask, how many people have been working on these early care issues for at least 5 years? Okay, you can keep your hands up. How about 10? And how about 20? Okay, so we have some relatively new folks and we have some veterans here. So I just wanted to give a little bit of historical perspective for those of you who maybe are more on the 5-year side. As you know, Proposition 10 passed in 1998 and created the first 5 commissions throughout the state of California. Alameda County was the first in the entire state of California. And it was a recognition of the value of early learning programs. And at that time, it was a new thing to talk about brain science. It was a new thing to talk about how you had to get children ready when they were 2, 3, 4-year-old. And now we all know it. This has been going on for a long time. And then the programs grew and commissions formed, and there was a lot of progress made. And in 2005, California made its first attempt at universal preschool, and unfortunately, because of a lot of different reasons, that did not come into being. Though I think it created a lot of discussion, a lot of new networks, and a lot of progress at the local level. Unfortunately, after its failure, I think the issue, while you all were still working very hard in the communities, in the grassroots, on a broader level, I think it kind of dropped off what I call the policy map in California. And the late 2000s actually saw a decimation of many of the early care programs. The state budget since 2008, and you can see it on my Human Impact site, cut $15 billion from safety net programs, including child care, early care programs, programs for the elderly, programs for working families and their children. And so by 2012-13, EdSource did a report on early care in California, and they noted declining enrollment and spending on early care in California. And this is really sad. They called California, quote, one of the big losers in terms of early care in California. And this is really absolutely a shame. Also, because of these cuts, California's poverty rate rose to among the highest in the nation, with 1 in 4 children in California living in poverty. And this is the federal poverty level, not the new poverty index. So this is a very, very low level of income, as all of you know. So meanwhile, during this period of time, we could look across the country and see other states who had implemented universal preschool for 4-year-olds. And some of them were red states, Florida, for instance. Then there was Oklahoma, Vermont, Georgia. And in the meantime here, while people on the ground were moving forward, and we look back over time, many of the 3 and 4-year-olds that we were looking at back when we were trying to do universal preschool are now 13 and 14-year-olds. And now we're servicing them at the back end of the system. And this is really a shame as well, because if we had continued forward in a broader way, many of these people would not be at the back end of the system today, and we wouldn't have to be making so many investments at the back end of the system. So fortunately, I think there has been some progress made, and I think Assemblyman Bonta will probably talk about them. But this year, the state budget did include an expansion of the TK programs for low-income students. It created additional preschool slots. There was a slight increase in the standard reimbursement rate for providers, and there was a small increase in money for infant and toddlers. And this was all due to your advocacy. It would not have happened without your advocacy. But certainly this is not enough, in my opinion. So we have a window of opportunity again that doesn't come all the time that I think that we can't miss. So I would call on you to do 4 things. First of all, we need to call on our legislature and the governor to continue the incremental progress that was made this year in the budget. And I think we should call on them. We're going to have a big turnout in 2016. We need to set a goal of universal preschool and expanded early care for the year 2016, 2 years from now. This is something we have to put on the agenda and we have to fight for, whether it's through a ballot initiative, whether it's through a legislative package. This is something that I think should be aimed for, can be aimed for. Second of all, we need to ask the governor and legislature to restore cuts to poor children and families. We've known for years, prior to the preschool and early care movement, that socioeconomic indicators are tied to school success. Everyone knows this. We've known this for decades and decades and decades. Well, you know, when we have a quarter of our children in California living below the poverty level, when 1 in 6 families in Alameda County depend on the food bank for their main source of food, when we have people who can't afford health care, have to choose between health care and rent because subsidized housing has really, especially in this area, is very hard to find. We can't hope for all our kids to succeed. This is definitely part of closing the gap. And lastly, I think that we need to work, obviously, on high-level local programs to expand preschool and early care opportunities. And I'm particularly interested in transition pieces. Transition from home visiting to preschool. We do such a great job in Alameda County of home visiting, but when they turn 3, what happens to them? So that transition piece. And of course, we're going to talk today about the transition from preschool to kindergarten. We have to look at those transition pieces because all the reports on Head Start and other programs show that if you don't pay attention and you don't continue, you don't have the continuum, all the gains that were made in the previous years could fall away and you've wasted your investment. So we need to look at those transitions. So in closing, I'd like to say that we know what we need to do. I think this report will shed more light on what the issues are, but really we don't want another report that's going to lie on the shelf. So I'm asking you today to join me in a call for action. This is the opportune time. We need to seize the time. We need to be impatient about it. We need to be persistent about it, and we need to get it done. So thank you, and I'm going to introduce Assembly Member Bonta at this point.